Hello, this is The Morning File, and I'm your host, Brian Zhang. Catch us live weekdays 9 to 10 a.m. only on 93.3 CFMU, or watch us on our podcast at cfmu.ca. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to 93.3 CFMU. This is The Morning File. I'm your host, Brian Zhang, and today we're here with a representative from Haunted Hamilton. How are you doing today?
Hi, Brian. Good. How are you?
I guess to start off, could you introduce us to your audience?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. It is Spooky Steph from Haunted Hamilton. Stephanie Dumbrick, a.k.a., but everybody kind of in the city knows me as Spooky Steph.
Spooky Steph. Awesome. How'd you come up with that name?
Well, I mean, I like spooky things naturally, and then oddly enough, it wasn't until about 5 years ago I had a friend who just started calling me Spooky, and it kind of stuck. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Haunted Hamilton, how did that get started?
Well, I mean, if you've been on my tours, you may have heard my spiel, but I mean, it's a personal lament because it's the only career I've ever known. And I'm going to turn 40 next year. And at the same time, Haunted Hamilton's going to celebrate its 20-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. So I've been running it since I've been 19 years old. And like I said, 20 years,
Is this a
20 years in the
thing?
making. Well, no, I mean, it is now.
It is now.
It is now because, my husband and my daughter are highly involved in the business. Mm-hmm. But when I started it, obviously I Hamiltonian, born and raised, and it's funny enough because it took me 1 year to exit Hamilton to go to school in Toronto for new media design to realize how much I love Hamilton. So I didn't even last a year in Toronto, and I came back, and that's right when I started Haunted Hamilton to share my love of the city with everybody. And it all started with the Bellevue Mansion because that was in the middle of a heated debate, so it kind of spurred it all, actually. Unfortunately, we weren't able to save that mansion, but I'm going to do my best to see what we can do for the remainder of the buildings that are still standing.
Mm-hmm. And what inspired this? Is there a lot of stories that you've read growing up?
It's a mixture of a bunch of things, to be honest. I was totally saturated with local history growing up because of my dad. He always would just, take me on rides, and show me places around Hamilton that were quite different than they are now. For example, the Customs House down on Stewart Street, the Workers' Arts and Heritage Museum. That, for a while, was sitting abandoned. And I remember when I was a young girl, my dad would take me for a drive down there. The Aliuna Station, that was even abandoned for a bit. But I remember there being 2 giant lion statues outside of the old Customs House. That was enough of an intrigue for me because I went back years later and they were gone. And that seems to be a trend in Hamilton. Things you love, they disappear. Historic things, they disappear. I used to take people in the infamous Jack the Ripper alleyway on my downtown tour, which is just at King and James. It's, I believe, Jack the Ripper practiced in Hamilton. But I used to lure people back there to go and see Hamilton's very first fire hydrant. And that's when I first began, and I thought, it was fun. And then I would take people back there and realize, the hydrant's not here anymore. It disappeared, and it was saved. It was put in the Museum of Steam and Technology. But there's so many little things of Hamilton's history that disappear. So that's always been a passion of mine to try and save that kind of stuff. And through my words, through my mouth, through my passion for history, and also what better way to get the next generation interested in this kind of history than through a good ghost story, an accurate ghost story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting because so you have these ghost stories and then you kind of take them along in this, you kind of sneak history into them.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I think it's really cool because when I was growing, I loved history, but the best way for history to be digestible is through a story.
Storytelling. Yeah. And that's what I've learned. What makes me different from, I would say, the other tours out there. And, there's some other ones out there that I compete with, I'll say. But I think what makes me different is that I speak from my heart. And I'm not just an actor memorizing a script or something, which is okay if, you're theatrical. But I think I'm theatrical enough with my storytelling. And here's the cool thing, which you'll have to come and join me on sometime. On my downtown tour, I warn everybody. I'm like, guys, just so you know, the next story I'm about to tell is not about ghosts. It's not about legends, folklore, blood, guts, anything like that. It is about Hamilton's history, and it's about, I'm kind of going to give it away here, but by the end of the story, I guarantee, and I'm hoping all of you guys are going to be deers and headlights. And they're all like, whatever, we'll see. And then by the end of that story, I swear every single person there is deers and headlights. And then we get a big laugh after that because people realize how cool Hamilton's history is. If you come join me, come and see if you're going to be a deer in headlights in that story. Mm-hmm. And one hint is it's about Hamilton's mob history.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that because there's these little ways that you can sneak you can sneak pieces of history into people, and then like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like it's
Whether
about that
you're a
Hamilton
kid or you're an
pride, too.
adult, I think
Yeah.
it's the enthusiasm you tell it with, and also, well, if it's a cool fact, War of 1812 stuff. We assume, a lot of people were bored by their history classes in school, but it's probably because the stories weren't either told right or they weren't interesting enough for some reason to that person where they didn't absorb it. So, well, tweak it, tell it in a different way. And I have kids now coming on my tour that like, yeah, I want to hear about the War of 1812. Tell me about Isaac Brock, because they have cool stories. So yeah, it's just how you tell it.
Yeah. I think part
And
of
market it. You're going into marketing.
Yeah.
It's how you market the history, like Instagram. Use your
Yeah.
hashtags, all that, right?
yeah, like I think people don't know what they're interested in until you present it to them. Like it's just those little tidbits of information.
Yeah,
They're
and then
like,
they can leave and take what they like from it, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you get any formal training in going
No,
around and just
to
you
be
just
honest,
started? You just
I went to school for art. I went to Sheridan for fine arts. I grew up creative. I skipped my science classes and my math classes, and then like in elementary school, and then I went to school for web design stuff. So it's interesting that here I am now. In the beginning of Haunted Hamilton's career, I was behind the scenes, and maybe that was my biggest mistake because people didn't see my passion for too long. 15 years behind the scenes, running the business, making it happen, picking the venues, all that, and that's hard in itself. But then something switched where I'm able to shine now, and I've gained my confidence, and my wings are spreading, and I'm able to share Hamilton's history without fear of being judged or trying to prove myself. That was the hardest thing when you're a kid, trying to call yourself a historian. Nobody's going to really take you seriously, so it takes time and an enthusiastic storytelling way of telling it.
And what is the hardest part of growing your business?
Well, aside from kind of what I just said, the being taken seriously on it, because, hey, it's my only career, it's my living, it's my finances, so you got to struggle to be taken seriously first, so people will rent a venue to you, and then that becomes your living. So that's one thing, being taken seriously in the paranormal. The other thing is time for everything, because I have so many ideas, and it's 20 years here, and there's still probably a few years of things that have been put on the back burner. I'm working on my book, which is really big. I have Mark Leslie. He's a famous Canadian author. He wrote the Haunted Hamilton book years ago, which I wrote the foreword for into the photos. I'm writing a book now, and he's going to write the foreword, so I need time to do that. I want time to make the Haunted Hamilton website filled with my columns and articles, which are just sitting in the archives, and events. I have so many cool locations that I want to bring to you guys, and yeah, so I don't know, 20 years here hasn't been enough. I'm going to need another 20 years to do this, yeah.
And what is it about ghost stories that you find especially appealing?
The biggest thing that I find appealing about ghost stories is that we're all searching for the same question. Whatever ethnicity you are, whatever religious belief you are, whatever background you have, we all do not know what is waiting for us after death. That's the common thing we all share. And I find that the coolest thing, because that brings us down to our deepest, also fear, because we don't know what that is. And we like to talk about it. And then when we start talking about it and we find that we have similar experiences or similar traits to the stories, then that's where I find it's interesting. And that's where I find there's probably going to be an answer to the paranormal. If anything, I want to be on my deathbed long time from now and actually say that I've contributed to the paranormal. So I'm not going to do this flaky. I'm not going to do this, like I said before, with any ego. You have to drop all of that and understand science or basic science. Watch TV, absorb YouTube, and take it from there. And don't let anybody ever sway your personal beliefs too.
Yeah, having a little faith, right?
You have to, yeah.
So how do these tours work? Do they book them through your website, or could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The website is www.hauntedhamilton.com, and the homepage always has the latest events there. The problem is they're always selling out. I announced Dungeon Castle a few months ago. I sold out eight tours of those in a couple days practically, and that's 100 people per tour, So if you're interested in these events, I'd recommend going to the website. The other thing is Facebook. We're about to celebrate 12,000 fans on Facebook, and that's pretty much where everybody hears about it. Not going to lie. Thank you. And of course, Instagram. We post a lot of fun stuff. We're always out doing Facebook Lives, droning. So we're always trying to share Hamilton's history in fun, unique ways. That's where you're going to find. I'm not going to be the stuffy historian here. I'm going to be bringing you history in a fun, unique way where it's going to be the way of the future, I think. So you got to merge with that, right?
So most of the tours, do they happen at night or?
They're at night, and they're all different locations. Some are indoors, some are outdoors. Some are haunted bus trips, where we have some coming up. If you're a fan of the TV show Ghost Adventures, we go to places that have been featured on those TV shows. We're going to Rolling Hills Insane Asylum just over the border in September 2 times. We're going to Hillview Manor, which is an old sanatorium hospital that's super haunted. We go to all the cool places in the States too. So get your passport if you're interested in joining us on that. And then you can come join me in the other kind of element where it's my historical downtown tour. So paranormal investigation, historical, we got it all.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in terms of like how things are changing in Hamilton, and sometimes things get demolished, things get destroyed. Are you worried about that in the near future with some of these locations?
I am. It's 50-50 right now, because I find that downtown Hamilton, I'm not going to lie, but it threw me for a loop. This past Friday was my very first downtown tour of my 19th season, and it was my first time navigating through the new Hamilton. Something has happened within literally half of a year, where you have skyscrapers now in downtown Hamilton and high-rises, right? And a lot of construction going on. But what I'm finding, which I'm really happy about, is in downtown Hamilton, they're still preserving the buildings where they're maintaining the exterior perhaps, and then the part that's unsavable working with or whatever. There's still buildings, definitely. Steve Kulikowski, he's awesome because he's retaining the history. Like, he took over the Sirloin Cellar, the Jack the Ripper alleyway area. He's doing amazing things for Hamilton while retaining the history. Then there's things I'll say, like, which is kind of under heated debate right now, the sanatorium grounds up on the old Shit Oak grounds. None of those buildings were ever designated historically significant, so they're just being torn down within the past few years. We lost our sanatorium hospital up there, which was famous. It was Canada-renowned tuberculosis hospital. That's gone. And we're about to lose right now in August that old hospital that's still in the grounds now there. That used to be the orphanage and the nurses' residence, and that's going to be torn down too. So I'm conflicted, It's a tough one, but I'll use my voice to see what we can do.
Yeah, because part of it, like, yes, it's history, but also like it speaks about a lot of things to teach you lessons, right? Like, it's a reminder. Yeah, it's
kind of, I guess, it speaks volumes for what I'm trying to do here, is merge history with, unfortunately, where we're going is technology, right? If you can find a nice way to merge it, or progress, I should say, not technology, progress. If you can find a way to merge that, awesome. Harry Stinson, perfect example. Stinson Properties, he's taking old, like, geez, here in Hamilton, I grew up being scared to walk past the old haunted knitting mills down on Canada Mary Street, because my grandma lived down there, but don't go near that haunted abandoned building. That was there for 30 years, abandoned at least, right? And then Harry's taken its luxury condos now, lofts, and he took over Stinson School, made that into luxury lofts. He's luring people from Toronto to come stay here for cheaper prices than Toronto in a historic condo. So I think that people like that are really, really needed here in Hamilton to make sure they save the history while making room for the progress.
Yeah, like, rather than demolishing, like, they're called like revitalization, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like what's happening here in Hamilton. It's my business is called Haunted Hamilton. Of course, I'm gonna be I'm gonna scrutinize. I'm gonna keep people under a microscope here because they're representing me and what my business stands for as well, right? And we're all being awesome. We're all working together to make Hamilton shine right now. So I think it's pretty cool. I love Hamilton. I hired Hamilton. There's a shout out to Kristen Archie, who has a show here on CFMU too.
Not to give too much away from your tour, but could you tell us a little bit about the Jack the Ripper alley? Yeah,
are you intrigued?
I am. I'm wondering because I'm like,
people
London?
think I'm loco when I say that, right? And then once I tell the story, they're like, oh, geez, I think I need to look this guy up a little more. Yeah. But, well, in a nutshell, a man named Dr., unaccredited, but Dr. Francis Tumblety, he was a quack doctor in the mid 1800s, right? And he was from Rochester, New York. And what he would do is he would travel here around Canada, basically a year at a time. He stopped here in Hamilton, went to Toronto for a year, Montreal, and then made his way back to Rochester. But what he would do, and there's evidence of this because he took out an ad in the Hamilton Spectator in 1856, was Dr. Francis Tumblety's infamous pimple cream. He guaranteed that if you purchased this pimple cream from him, your zits would all disappear within 1 year. But the problem was within that year, he'd be gone and you couldn't get your money back because it didn't work, right? So, but here's the thing. 1888, if that date rings a bell for any of the listeners or yourself, Jack the Ripper murders, Whitechapel District. So guess whose name appears on the papers at the Batty Street Lodger as staying there the very first night of the Jack the Ripper murders. Dr. Francis Tumblety. That's right in the heart of the Whitechapel district. And get this, that same night after the first murder occurred, Francis Tumblety is on record by a maid saying that he ran into the hotel with blood-stained cuffs and asked her to immediately go remove all that blood from the cuffs and don't tell anybody. She did. Later, she obviously had to say that. So they had enough to suspect that he was Jack the Ripper, so much so he was the number one suspect out of 5. They arrested him for one night. They had nothing on him, so they had to let him leave. His handwriting matched everything, all that. But in 1856, going back here to Hamilton, he took out, he had his offices, but while he was here, he rented out a Victorian mansion over in the Hamilton historic area. Yeah. And what he did was he thought he would impress us Hamiltonians here to gain our confidence to buy his stuff. And at the time, who do you impress? Who ruled the town? The Freemasons. So he invited them over for one night. He sent a very special invitation. And he's like, gentlemen, come see my parlor. I have some cool things I'd like to show you. Yeah. So they all arrive at the scheduled time in the evening. He greets them. He pulls apart the curtains into his parlor. They sit down. He lights a cigar for them. And he's like, gentlemen, are you ready? And he illuminates the parlor. And all they're met with is wooden, floor-to-ceiling, old bookshelves. But there's no books on them. There's all jars filled with formaldehyde. And what he boasts with these lights on them is women's body parts, all different kinds in these jars. And we're talking dozens of them. And these Freemasons slowly creep out of that room. And yeah, it was weird enough, right? So Francis Tumblety, obviously, right there's room enough for him to be Jack the Ripper. Another reason why they thought he was Jack the Ripper was because shortly after he was married, he found out his wife was practicing as a prostitute. Second case right there for hatred for women. And then probably the most compelling of all, and I'll leave you with this, is that if you know anything about your Jack the Ripper murders, you know that the final victim was a woman named Mary Kelly, the most mutilated beyond recognition. Now, here's the thing. Mary Kelly had some friends who survived, and when the cops were checking out the crime scene over there in Whitechapel, they saw Mary Kelly's body. They caught a glimpse of it, and what they noticed was on her finger, she was missing her 2 favorite rings. She had 2 brass rings, identifiable marks on it, and they all started chattering, where's her rings? Where's her rings? Nobody ever knew. Nobody ever cared. So then flash forward, Francis Tumblety over in Rochester, New York, dies a very old man. And his family's going through his possessions, and they go up to his bedroom. They're met with his dresser. They open it up, and they find this old little wooden box. They open it up, and what do you think they found inside?
Wow, they found
the 2 brass rings.
Oh,
exact
my
markings.
Goodness.
Goosebumps, eh? So look up a man named Dr. Francis Tumblety. He's called a quack doctor, and that is his story. And there is a case list for him being Jack the Ripper. Unfortunately, they never had enough evidence to convict him. Yeah. And he practiced right here in Hamilton in 1856. And I take you guys to the very, where he had his very first brush with the law in the alleyway. That's why I call it Jack the Ripper alleyway, because he was arrested in the alleyway for the illegal abortion of a prostitute right here in Hamilton.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so amazing, because like Hamilton, it still is. And back then it was also like a huge city. Like it was a massive city for trade and people coming through. And like I think sometimes even like I didn't grow up in Hamilton. I came here for university, and I forget that too. Like sometimes I sit down, I'm like, oh, like there's a very deep.
See, you're my target audience too. I don't want just the Hamiltonians to be proud. I want you live in Hamilton now, right?
Yes.
Are you gonna stay here? Maybe you're not sure yet.
Still thinking.
Well, hey, maybe I can change your mind and maybe you'll stay here forever, right? But
it sucks you in.
I don't know if I'll call you a visitor then, or you're Hamiltonian for now. But I want to lure you forever. People who visit Hamilton, I want you to see how cool it is with these stories. We got Rocco Perry, Evelyn Dick. Those aren't even ghost stories. And I just posted today a little thing about Evelyn Dick, and I know you Hamiltonians know what I'm talking about. So it's people like who are the tourists. I would love to share these stories with them.
Yeah, it's that intrigue, and like it's And it's that it's those things that kind of like force people to dive deeper into history too.
Anywhere
right?
you look, it's historic and it's haunted. You got right here, the McMaster campus. We did haunted tours here last October and for all the staff, and everybody loved it. And we did a full campus tour. Yeah.
And you did it like you did it at night with the,
It was cool. We had the Dark Widow floating around too in her morning outfit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you got chills.
Now I'm nervous. So if people, so just to reiterate, in case anyone is just tuning in right now, could you let our audience know like where people can find out more information, how they can get involved in terms of tours and etc.?
Right on. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, I'm Spooky Steph from Haunted Hamilton, and you can go to the website, hauntedhamilton.com, and also on Facebook, look up Haunted Hamilton, and on Instagram, Haunted Hamilton. Lots of tours going on, lots of events, and lots of other cool stuff. We're always doing stuff.
Well, I think that's a great way to end off our interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe this is the first time we're meeting.
Yeah, well, I just started my job very recently.
True.
But like,
well, hey, whenever you want me on, this is awesome. And you have to come on a tour now.
Yes,
no excuse.
For sure. now I want to. Now, like,
right on.
Because I suddenly started getting into, I don't know why I do this to myself, but there's a bit of the excitement when it comes to fear, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I started watching a lot of like, so BuzzFeed has like BuzzFeed Unsolved, and like,
yeah, those are good.
I've been diving a lot more into like horror and scary stuff, and I think it's much less like the fear that entices me, but it's the story itself. And we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
Like how like people like to hear stories. Like I love to hear stories, and like the intrigue. It's like
it's interesting you said it too, because people sometimes associate horror movies with paranormal and stuff, and I am so critical of horror movies now because it's for jump scares and all that kind of stuff, right? You know, if somebody asks me what's my favorite ghost movie, there's two that stand out where I say it's most authentic to the paranormal world, truly authentic, and that would be one, The Others, where you got parallel worlds there. I don't want to give away the ending or whatever, but you know. And two is The Woman in Black, part one. Part two, I don't know. Part one, fantastic. And those two movies are true to what I think the world of paranormal is. And people, if they want to find the answer to the paranormal, don't go looking in horror movies. Go looking in YouTube and look up stuff about quantum physics, all that kind of stuff, and in science. And that's probably where the answer is going to lie, mixed in with a bit of spirituality.
Yeah, like in Thor, it was like, magic is just science we don't know about.
Yeah. And William Shatner was asked, what's the difference between science and science fiction? We just watched this. There is no difference, really, in essence.
Yeah, like 3D printing, like they just took something from Terminator. Like it's just all those little things, right? Like, Well, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. This has been an awesome interview.
Well, that was spooky stuff from Haunted Hamilton.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
And that was The Morning File. Catch The Morning File live on weekdays, 9 to 10 a.m. only on 93.3 CFMU. Now, back to the tunes.